In America, people are very focused on a rajasic mode. People seek pleasure. People seek pleasurable experiences. People are very motivated by money. I lived in California throughout my 20s, and throughout my 20s I worked in the food service industry as a chef. After I found this asana class to be very helpful for my physical and mental and spiritual condition, I was in a place in my life that I was curious how to have a relationship with a higher power. My job as a chef in America involved processing animals into delicious meals. In America, it's very popular to consume meat in addition to alcohol. For this reason, since I live in a small town, I have found it challenging to use my expertise as a chef while avoiding causing suffering to animals. So this is what drove me to quit my job and pursue a career as a yoga teacher. Also, coming from an atheist family and an atheist upbringing, I have not been exposed to the lessons that are derived from traditions of wisdom that go back thousands of years. So I'm here to connect with a wisdom tradition that does span back thousands of years, that is still thriving, that has been continuously developed and shared in this culture here. My name is Ryan, and I am from New York.
You are still in America, but what's missing there? What are you searching for?
In America, people are very focused on a rajasic mode. People seek pleasure. People seek pleasurable experiences. People are very motivated by money. And culturally, I've always felt that there is a great divide between the people who are pious and religious and the people that are not. And these two groups do not seek to understand one another. They seek to feel separate from one another. In India, I came here because I have heard that the philosophy in Bhakti Yoga is inclusive and seeks to share love and compassion with people on all different paths, with not only humans but with people of all species. It is a philosophy that, in my understanding, involves offering love and compassion to all living entities and seeing the same spark of spiritual energy throughout all of God's creations, all of Krishna's creations. This is what drew me to come to India. I was born in New York State, in a small town, in an agricultural district, in a small town that has 2 universities. And I grew up in this town, and then I went to university in this same town, and traveled quite a bit in my youth. Lived in California throughout my 20s, and throughout my 20s I worked in the food service industry as a chef. I worked in the food industry for 7 years, from my mid-20s until just a few weeks ago. I first found yoga as a result of injuries from athletics. I was a runner, and I became injured, and my physical therapist recommended to me in a dream that I practice yoga every day. So I found asana class, and in America, asana class is usually just physical practice and doesn't have very much philosophical component. A few months after I found this asana class to be very helpful for my physical and mental and spiritual condition, I was in a place in my life that I was curious how to have a relationship with a higher power and how to conceptualize of God. And at this time, I discovered the Wisdom of the Sages podcast produced by Raghunath Das and Kaustubha Das. And they helped me come to a new conception of God as Krishna and so this conception of God allowed me to have a personal relationship with a higher power rather than just a conceptual relationship with an amorphous energy, which was how I previously conceived of God. My job as a chef in America involved processing animals into delicious meals. In America, it's very popular to consume meat, hamburgers, steaks, chicken. These are all very, very popular. And in addition to alcohol, meat is one of the primary drivers of profit in the food service industry in America. These products are in such demand that to run a restaurant that is vegetarian or vegan is very difficult and uncommon outside of the major cities. For this reason, since I live in a small town, I have found it challenging to use my expertise as a chef while avoiding causing suffering to animals. So this is what drove me to quit my job and pursue a career as a yoga teacher, coming to India to spend a month studying with Raghunath and his other teachers in order to be able to bring love and compassion through yoga philosophy, asana practice, and music, kirtan, to people where I come from in New York. My family has been supportive of my coming to India. They have seen for several years that it is weighed heavily on my heart, that there's a contradiction between my values and what I believe to be righteous and what I've been doing in my profession. Although they don't want to live the same lifestyle that I seek to, they are still supportive, and my family is still supportive of me making this transition. I first heard about Raghunath on the Rich Roll podcast, where he was interviewed shortly after he had started his own podcast. And it was at a time that I was searching for a deeper relationship with my higher power. When I first listened to Raghunath's podcast, I could not stop. I listened to maybe 10 episodes in a row and found out that not only is it a podcast, but it is a community that is very inviting of people to join. Raghunath is not a typical yoga teacher. He's very funny, he's very enthusiastic, and he shares his vulnerability, which allows those of us that he teaches the ability to bring ourselves very honestly to the studies. He has a very hard yoga practice, very difficult yoga practice, and yet he keeps it lighthearted. So from reading the Bhagavad Gita, I have come to understand that I am not this body, that I am something divine. I've come to understand that I am an eternal spirit soul that is part and parcel of the divine energy of Krishna. I have come to understand that through a life of devotional service to Krishna and to other living entities, I can seek liberation. And on this path, I may find difficulties, but that I should not be attached to the outcome of my labors, that I should not be attached to the fruits of my labors, that I should do acts of service for their own sake. So working as a chef is very ego-driven. It constantly requires you to ask yourself, how will the consumer, how will the customer think of what you're giving them? And whether they will like it, whether they will dislike it, whether they will come back and spend more money. And so this all feeds the ego, the false identity of whether I'm adequate, whether I'm doing enough, whether I'm creating something that's pleasurable enough. And this is contrary to my experience studying yoga here at Govardhan Eco Village. I'm being instructed and asked not to engage with my false identity, but instead to relate to others through transcendental sound with love and compassion, with detachment from how I may benefit personally. My message to the youth of today is to always look for the opportunities to learn and grow through difficulties and through hardships. Life will have its ups and downs, and it will not serve us to wallow in our feelings, but rather recognize that we have these feelings and to see what we can learn and how we can grow, and ultimately how we can be of service to ourselves and others. I think the grass always seems greener on the other side. No matter how we are raised, we will see how other people are living and realize that there are lessons that they've learned that we haven't because we've lived in a different way. Coming from America, from relatively an affluent community, from an affluent family, I have not had to learn many of the lessons of hardship. Also coming from an atheist family and an atheist upbringing, I have not been exposed to the lessons that are derived from traditions of wisdom that go back thousands of years. So I'm here to connect with a wisdom tradition that does span back thousands of years, that is still thriving, that has been continuously developed and shared in this culture here. I think yoga can be tremendously beneficial for physical, spiritual, and mental health. Physically, it's very good for strength, for strengthening the small muscles, the stabilizing muscles, for flexibility, for cardiovascular conditioning, and for mental health, it can be very stabilizing to understand that we are not the body, that we are something divine. And spiritually, in this application of understanding that we are not the divine, that we can transcend our mind and body and find a service that is loving and compassionate. My message to everyone throughout the world is that we must take action in our own lives in small ways that impact the global problems, that have some impact on changing the trajectory of the planet, economically, politically, in terms of the environment. And if each of us do this, we can make a huge impact. If each of us fall into Maya and illusion and avoid our problems, then we will create untold destruction for future generations. Please like and subscribe to the channel Wake Up and Shine to find more inspiring stories.